Hi, Dr. Eddie. I'm so excited to hear about your topic for today is why is healing so difficult? And it is, even though it's a simple process, but it's still so difficult. So what have you got for us?
Yes. I mean, the idea is that, and I was talking to my wife about this. I think it was over the weekend. Get so frustrated at times, especially from the couple perspective, because we can see the pathway. We can see it. We understand what needs to be done. And the problem is that those who are in the midst of all of it, they don't have that same vision. And it is. And sometimes I feel frustrated because I'm like, are we not communicating this correctly? And I know it's not just an Eddie Capparucci problem because everybody who comes to me, all the what you see out there, you can tell there's a lot of people who've been to a lot of places, they've done a lot of different work, and yet still stuck here in this place that we're at. I want to talk about. I want to talk about the idea of why is it so difficult to really heal. And I'm talking about both from the idea of the betrayer as well as the betrayed. So it's on both parts. I think number one, and I think I have five or six different things to talk about. Number one is this idea that you're in uncharted waters, right? I mean, for many women, this is the first time they've ever been betrayed. They weren't expecting this. A dream has been shattered. And more importantly, it's this idea of how do we ever get through it? They're all legitimate. It's a legitimate question. How do we get through this? Because I can't see that pathway. And for those who have betrayed, again, this is uncharted waters in a sense that they have gotten caught. And now they need to sit and they need to face the demons that they've been dealing with all their lives. And for some of them, that's scary. They don't want to go there. They don't want to touch those pain points, those raw nerves. And it becomes something where, again, if that fight is I want to be better, I want to heal, but yet there's a part of me that I just can't go there. And that brings me to second point of why it's so difficult to heal. It's frightening. It is. It's frightening. For a betrayed partner to say, I will let you back into my world, there's a lot of fear that comes with that because I can't see your heart. I can't read your mind. So how do I know for certain that you will not hurt me again? It's a fear. And for those who have betrayed, the fear is this idea of, is on two sides here. One, the fear of, can I manage my addictive behaviors and do it in a way that will, again, be consistent? But also there's the fear of, I can't help her because I don't know how to help her. And when I try to help her, it doesn't seem to go well. So therefore, they are afraid to even move in that direction with that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through here today. We go into number three, and it's the idea that betrayers feel that when it comes to helping their hurt spouse, I can't get this right. And if you look at it, sometimes, especially when they'll sit and they'll talk about, oh, had a major loss this week, and they tell you the details of it, and you just want to go, common sense tells me not to go down that pathway. Just common sense. However, we go back to number two, fear. The fear kicks in. And so now what we have is, I'm going to be in trouble. She's going to escalate. We're going to be in conflict for days. I don't want to deal with all of this. How can I make this thing go away? And one of the things they do is they lie. I'm going to lie about it because I don't want her to find out. Why don't I want her to find out? Because of the consequences. The bigger fear is also the fact is, if I do tell her that, there are going to be major consequences. Again, now this comes back to the common sense that, well, wait a second. If you tell her, actually, there may be some consequences. Doesn't always have to be consequences. Maybe she's going to look at that and say, okay, I understand that makes sense. If you lie and you get caught, and you will get caught because it's all over your face now when you're lying, it's there. There will be consequences. Not just in that moment, the conflict, but more so that the fact that you pushed her all the way back here. I have a client of mine, I was talking to him the other day, been dealing with him for about 2 years now. And he and his wife, they're still together for years. He was living in the basement. Then he moved to one of the adult children who moved out into their bedroom. And now he's in their bedroom they're sleeping together, but she sleeps on the top of the sheet. She have a body pillow in between, and he's upset because we're not being physically intimate. Over 2 years, I have seen him continuously shoot himself in the foot every 3 or 4 months because he starts to get bent out of shape about the fact of, I'm not getting anything, I'm giving, and I'm not, receiving any sort of encouragement, or I'm not receiving any type of, praise for what I'm doing. And he had his little fit. And she goes all the way back here because you haven't changed. And I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying to me, he goes, I just don't understand. He goes, do you realize how long I've been in this place? I go, yeah, I know how long you've been in this place. And he goes, but it's not getting any better. I go, because you keep messing up. You can't be consistent enough. And the reason you're not consistent is your heart's not changing. You keep looking out after, what do I need? What do I want? What do I desire? Versus her. And let me tell you, if he would have done this from the very beginning, when I've laid everything out to him and we worked on why he struggles here, if he would have been consistent, I guarantee they'd be in a totally different place. And they're not. They're not. So, again, part of the problem is the betrayer who can't seem to get it right. Okay. It makes sense of what they need to do, but they, again, fear. The driving factor is fear. We talked about this in our Why Men Struggle to Love group yesterday, for probably, the topic was fear. Spent a good, probably, over an hour talking about these fears and what needs to be done and how to deal with it. But all of them across the board, it's like, no, I don't want to go there. No, I don't want to touch that. No, I don't want. And they go, then you're never going to heal. She's never going to heal. You need the courage to be able to do so. So we'll talk a moment about that. So then again, we look at all of these things I've already outlined for you, right? What have I said? I said that it's uncharted waters. I said it's frightening. I said that, betrayers can't get it right. What's all sitting here on the surface that I don't think we've been talking much about? I've been talking a lot about it lately. Anxiety is all anxiety. It's too high. It's too elevated. It's not necessary. Because what we're doing is we're taking, how's she going to react? We're taking that and we're ruminating on it. and we're making it much bigger than what it is. What is he doing? What is he not doing? How is he acting? What's he thinking about? And again, ruminating on it, making it larger than what it is. And that's what you react to. And now you got, both of you sitting here and wondering, why in the world do I have this, hurricane coming at me when it should just be a sprinkle of a storm? And it should pass. It doesn't, because again, we've made it something bigger than what it should be. And therefore, we need to be able, and we'll go through it, what to do there. But anxiety, proactively looking to manage your anxiety. Go to number 5, our past traumas and neglect. And that's both the betrayed and the betrayer. They play a large role in the elevation of our anxiety. They play a large role in the way we anticipate how somebody is reacting, what we think is really going on. Okay? May not be happening, but it's what we think. Our expectations, whether they're being met or not met, all based on those traumas and those neglects. Okay? In some cases, the betrayers have been running from their entire life. Okay, they just don't know how to sit with emotional pain. You've heard me talk about that. The betrayed also, however, may have done a really wonderful job of suppressing past traumas, and now they've been exacerbated. All right, they've been exacerbated, and we see that. We see a lot of this, Tammy. When we talk to women, whose husbands have betrayed them, and they're talking about their therapy and what they're doing. They're not just doing therapy for the betrayal that's happened now. They're also starting to do therapy because of past trauma, because what's happened is the two worlds have come together and it's become this big. And therefore, they can't differentiate between the two. So while in the middle of dealing with the trauma of the betrayal, it's not just that alone, it is everything. And it makes it that much more difficult to be able to then to regulate yourself. And you can understand that. Also, past traumas are also causing each of you to trigger one another and not know that you're doing it. But you're talking to his little boy and he's talking to your little girl. And neither of them like it. So therefore, we need to understand what are the things that trigger, because there's many guys who they're looking at their wives and what they see, and not cognitively, they don't understand it. They see their mother. They see their mother. And there's many women who've been betrayed, they see their father, or they see somebody who is abusive in their life. That's what your little kid sees. And it's wrong. And that has to be put aside. You have to work on that, because if you do, then once again, here comes down the anxiety. All right. So again, let's recap. Let's do one more. We're talking about uncharted waters. We're talking about fear, how frightening it is, all of this. We're talking about how betrayers just can't seem to get it right because of that fear. We talk about anxiety and how we, on both parts, that need to be lowered. We just talked about past trauma, past neglect, and what that does. And then finally, and you've heard me say this before, I've talked about this topic. I think it's a critical topic. It's like we lose sight of what we're trying to accomplish. What are we trying to accomplish? Are we just trying to live out the rest of our lives just rehashing this pain, this, inconsideration that happened, this turmoil? Is that what we're going to do? Is that the rest of our lives? We're just going to replay this horrible film over and over and over again. Or, okay, would you want something different? When pain takes over and it becomes the centerpiece of everything, which is what happens in many of these relationships, there'll be no healing. There'll be no healing. It cannot be the center of the relationship. Pain is there, but pain, and I'll share in a moment how we should be addressing that, have to be addressed in a certain way. Okay, so those are the 6 things that I believe make healing very difficult. So, what are the 6 things we should be doing to help us? Well, number 1 is the idea of acceptance. It happened. It happened. It sucked that it happened. Wish it didn't happen, but it did. And there are many who struggle to accept, and that's on both sides. I had a client last week who said to me, he goes, I can't wait till we get to the point where we can just take the thing and bury it in the backyard. I said, you're going to be waiting forever because that day is not happening. Hopefully what we do is we take it and we put it over here where it's kind of out of sight, but you can turn and you can look at it because you know what? It is part, and I hate to say this, but it's true. It's part of your story. It just is. It's part of your story. And hopefully what you're going to do when we go back to the idea of losing sight of what you're trying to accomplish is that what we accomplished, what we were able to overcome that becomes now the story. We're able to work through it. We're able to improve our relationship. We're able to have a different type of respect for one another. We are able to learn more about how we each hurt and how to nurture one another. Hopefully that's what's going to happen. But that thing is not getting buried. And if you bury it, it's coming back at some place, somewhere along the line, Tammy, right? It's going to come back. It's there. That's number 1. You have to accept it for what it is. Number 2, we have to deal with our fears. And this is where I go back to, we look at our inner child model and we look at how do we deal with this? Well, okay, I look at what I feel. And in many cases, the scenario, the thing, the circumstances, there are many, many fears that are here, okay, in my feelings. There are many, because what are they? Those are driven by the little boy and the little girl. Okay. He's going to hurt me again. He's never going to get this right. Or she's never going to heal, and she's always going to be angry and upset. And that's just a few of them, but it piles up. That's what you feel, and that's what this is what you're driven by. Her reaction, his reaction, driven by all these fears. That's it. That's what you guys are running on right now. And you need to take this and move it over to what is real. So that you could take all those fears and you start to bring them down as you look at what reality is. Yes, I caused great pain. I did. But I am working hard. I'm trying to change. And I know that my fears still get in the way of me sometimes doing everything right. Start to come down. For her, you know what? I've never felt pain like this before. Or maybe I have felt this pain before, and now it really sucks that I'm reminded about all this pain. But I'm strong, and I've been through things before, and I can get through this too. And I do think, I think he's trying to be different. I think he's trying to make changes. Yeah, being consistent would really definitely help more. Bringing that anxiety down somewhat to be able to deal with the situation. And that comes down to that again, my number one rule in all of this: slow everything down. If you do not slow things down, you're going to stay with that intensity. That is just going to be impossible to really try to work through. Fourth, betrayer, you must see her pain, not hostility, pain. And yes, that's going to take you, because again, you're looking at this and you got to come over here to what is real, and you break it down and saying, yeah, she's angry, she's annoyed, but she's hurt, and I caused that hurt. Therefore, because again, when we talked about the power differentiation, that's what goes on in this situation. You guys are a couple, and then all of a sudden this happens, and then she's here, he's here, right? That just happens. And if this doesn't shift back, there's no healing. Okay. And what I tell my men is that, you know what? They got to come back up. They got to come here. I'm not telling her to come down to you. You have to come up to her. And you come up to her to be confident in the sense that, yes, you know what? I messed up. I screwed up. I am so sorry about that. I've apologized way too much because you are tired of hearing me say, I'm sorry. But look at my actions and look at the difference in my heart. I ask you to see that. And I'm not going to rush you. I'm not going to try to drag you through this. I'm going to go at your time, in your time. But all I ask is that you see that I have, and that I'm committed. I'm committed to making changes. And if you stay up here, then she sees that. If you stay down here, she never sees it. All she sees is a little boy. He's the guy who will take him away. You need to come up here with her. Again, we're not cocky. We're not arrogant. We're confident that we're doing the right things. Yeah, you know what? Really didn't want to tell her because I knew she'd be upset. But you know what? I'm going to tell her anyway. When she gets upset, she gets upset. Well, guess what? I created the pain. I deal with it. Again, it's about owning your stuff. Number 5, okay, is the idea of working on our unresolved pain points. Both sides. Doing that work. What triggers me? Okay, what are the expectations I have for my partner that may not or not being met? And therefore, then instead of just getting angry about it or withdrawing from it and building resentment, instead I go and we talk about it. Because maybe my expectations are a little out of line, or maybe there's something that they just can't fulfill because of their own bad pain that's going on. Okay. And then finally, the last thing you need to do is you need to really assess what is it that you want moving forward. Do you want to just live among this pain for the rest of your life? Or do we want to take that pain and put it over here and be able to start to come together and connect in a new way, a different way than we have before? And yes, we'll look back over there every once in a while. Still there. They'll come up, you'll get triggered by something, but it's not the centerpiece of the story. The healing is the centerpiece of the story. That's what I got for you today, Tammy.
Great stuff as always. So I had some comments. You talked about lying. Sometimes it's reactionary and done without thinking. And I thought, I was thinking, if I am intentional and I think rather than just, doing the normal patterns, and I hear this all the time too. It's like, how could he not, whatever. And I was like, I think he probably just did without thinking it through. And so in recovery, we have to learn to be intentional. Like you're talking about, I can tell her that I lied. I can tell her about whatever, and she is going to have a reaction. But if I do that, that's a new pattern,
but
and
why?
she will be less upset.
Exactly right. If you're that guy who's just that compulsive liar because that is what you've always done, and it spits out of your mouth, you need to be able to catch it, bring it back, take time out. You know what? That wasn't true. That wasn't true. You have a way of making up for it. But to go back to what you were just saying a moment ago, the idea, why do they do that? Again, fear, anxiety. That's what it is. Proactively work on lowering that, and therefore you should be able to lower down the amount of being not truthful and not transparent.
Yeah, well, and I often share, fear is false evidence appears real. And you were talking about we anticipate, and I go, yeah, the story I'm telling myself is this whole big, you talked about a sprinkle versus a hurricane. Like I can create the whole hurricane and play it all out, and like, and then this person to say this and this, or I can go, I don't know what's going to happen, but I can show up and be my most integrated self, and work on being part of the solution instead of part of the problem. So, but
Correct. But
that's a choice.
you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You have a choice. You do have a choice. In many cases, you feel like you don't. I don't have a choice. I have to lie to her. I don't have a choice. I can't just be vulnerable with him. I got to pick up the 2x4 and hit him in the head. No, sorry, you're wrong. You have a choice on how you can handle the situation. Good point. That's an excellent point, Tammy.
Well, and then you talked about the betrayed partner, like having it push back on old things. And yes, there's lots of levels of betrayal here, but sometimes, this is this layer, but like you talked about the sprinkle versus the hurricane, like there's a bigger reaction to it that is, because some deeper wound is getting poked. So I think help and support for each person is very different, and support around the traumas. And I don't appreciate when people, come in and, like kind of ignore what's happening now and go, let's talk about your family of origin. You're like, no, there's plenty of trauma in this. And, like, what is that really, what is that really doing? What is that really poking? Is it,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm, like that is that was an old wound. And now you're putting those puzzle pieces together, but in a place where they can actually take it in and not just shifting it to like,
Yeah.
let's talk about you,
Yeah,
from
but again,
a
it's
child.
the approach. Okay, a woman
Mm-hmm.
who her husband gets up a little bit earlier in the morning, and he goes out and he's sitting on his computer, and she's lying in bed and she's sitting there and worried and wondered, what is he doing? What's he up to?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can walk out there and you could say, what the hell are you doing? Why are you here? Give me your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could come out and you could say, hey, you know what? I'm just laying in there and I'm really concerned about what you're doing out here. You mind? Can you hand me your phone, please? Very different.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get the same response. Hopefully, he's giving you a phone, and hopefully, he's not doing anything that's wrong. But it
Yes,
is,
hopefully he's doing his meditations and preparing for his day in a healthful way. So
yes, leave
I
that
loved,
person alone.
like that last month you shared, you can't make it unhappen. And so when you're talking about acceptance, like I can't tell you how many times I've shared that webinar from last month about you can't make it unhappen. It really is, choosing to move forward in a different way. Um, and you started using, when you're talking about fears, you were using it, he's always going to be like this, she's never going to believe me, like all. And I find for myself, if I start getting like, it's an automatic cue, if I'm using always and nevers, I'm in a not good space, because nothing is really that, that absolute. There's always, the in between. So it's one of those things for me, it's an indicator, is that a truth, like, is that a truth? Is he always like this, always 100%? Probably not.
No, that's the absolutes that we, again, the mindset that we develop. It is developed based on fear.
Mm-hmm. And then you talked about slowing it down, and I thought, it's so helpful, because if we're reacting, we're not thinking anything through. So I think it's good to journal, like, well, okay, like, I'm fearful, he got up early, what am I really concerned about, what, all of those things. Oh, go for a walk, like getting some space, and just, like, how is it? And I really appreciated it. What do we want moving forward? And I think that that's what do I want as an individual, and what do I want for the relationship, and what can my part be in, to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem, but I think people lose sight of that. Like, what are we striving for? It's like, you did it again, dig my heels in, and then like, just like you were talking about with your client, there isn't a lot of hope if you're going to keep digging your heels in of, I should, she should be doing this, and like having a tantrum because she's not rolling out the red carpet of like, oh, you're doing such a good boy.
We've all seen, the couples who are 10, 15, 20 years into this. It's like, what the hell? I mean, I can't understand. I just don't understand, because that's not what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be, let's repair, not let's continue to, again, traumatize ourselves with all of this.
Um, so we've got a bunch of questions, so we're going to get started on those. So the first one, Dr. Eddie, is spouse has been an addict to porn for over 30 years. I found out about the porn a year after being together. I believe him when he said he stopped. I found out a year ago that his leisure porn watching is not, and he's an addict. He put our finance at risk buying buying burner phones. Yeah, he says he loves me, wants help, and me to trust him again, but I don't see the work. I pushed him to get therapy, which he started a month ago. Other than that, he's doing nothing until 3 weeks ago when he started doing the porn 101 work group. That's good. He says your program has made him realize the error of his ways, but I found he purchased burners. He claimed he returned on a credit card that's now closed, no proof to show. He is in the military, which makes a lot of this harder because I never had any trust issues prior to this issue. Keeps doing things that raise red flags, and when I bring them up, he says he thinks we should get a divorce because I don't trust him.
Well,
Wow.
I don't see why you could trust him. How can you trust him? He's not consistent at all, whether it is the inconsistency of, buying a burner phone, or the inconsistency of in doing his work, and the fact that you have to push him to do his work is not, a good sign. None of this makes me feel, optimistic about what's going on here with him. And what he needs to do is to grow up and say, you know what, I want to make a commitment. For the first time in my marriage, in the 22 years that we're together, I want to make a commitment. And I'm going to make that commitment by changing the man that I am. And therefore, making sure that, one, I am not relying on you to drive my therapy or to drive my recovery. I'm going to drive it myself. So I think based on what you're telling me here, or us here, he has not hit bottom yet. That's what it sounds like. He hasn't hit bottom.
No, and I love our work groups, but I'm like I said on Dr. Rob's webinar on Monday night, they're not enough. Those by themselves are not enough, and you can see a brilliant therapist, and that isn't enough. This is a 24/7 issue. It's a thinking problem. Dr. Eddie, what he's been talking about is a lot of I'm fearful, so I'm it's feelings and thinking and all of those things, and so it's an issue that needs attention in a much more comprehensive way. And you said he's been doing this for over 30 years. Dr. Eddie talks about with the inner child stuff, all those wounds are before age 10. So you get a 40-year-old person, yeah, it's 30 years. You get a 50-year-old person, it's even longer. So those patterns need a lot of attention to start to shift. Is there hope? Absolutely, for those that are willing, and that throwaway comment of like, oh, we should just get a divorce because you don't trust me, like that is, that to me is, I'm pushing you away. I don't want to deal with this. Like Dr. Eddie talked about, let's go bury this in the backyard, and it'll just be easier if I don't have to be accountable to you because you're messing up my ability to go act out without feeling any guilt. So, and I'm saying that kind of facetiously, but it's that stupid addict thinking is like, oh, you're the problem because you're asking to be in a relationship with him that has, integrity and honesty. He doesn't know how to do it. He doesn't have enough help yet. There is help. We have a residential treatment program for guys just like him. So, but for you, healthy boundaries for you, what do you need for your safety, your physical, financial, emotional and spiritual safety? That those are your boundaries, regardless of what he does or doesn't do. It's about you taking care of you.
What
So,
group should she be looking at, Tammy?
well, so we've got a bunch of drop-in groups, and there is one today at 12:30 Pacific time. But there is a betrayed partner, similar to the Porn Addiction 101 work group. There is a betrayed partner work group that starts the 2nd of November. Angela Spearman does a great job with that. We do everything from a pro-dependent lens, but it will talk about healthy boundaries for you. It's a 6-part series. Dr. Eddie does 2 different groups, on our website too. Those are deeper work. So we always say start here and then go to the deeper work. But those are all live facilitated. None of those are just watch a video. They're all live facilitated. There's homework discussions. So it's very intentional about, about supporting the work, for each of you. But drop-in groups, you can find where you found this. There's also drop-in groups for each of you. He would know about it because he's been in Porn Addiction 101. He knows about those resources. Him choosing to do that, that's a whole other thing. So,
hey, before we go to the next question, I want to go back to something you said earlier.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people here today. Last week we didn't have as many, and I want to make sure they understood what you were talking about. What you were saying was about, trauma. What trauma really is not the event, if what we feel about the event. That's from Gabor Mate, and he had and I showed a quote from him about, which I thought probably the best trauma.
I saved it. I love it. Yeah.
I mean, and that is basically what he says is trauma is not the event or circumstance. Okay, because as Tammy said, that cannot unhappen. Whatever occurred, that occurred. Trauma is what you make it inside of you. That's what the trauma is. And you carry that wound with you for years, decades, whatever, and it still haunts you. It's not so much that pain of what happened, but it is what you've made that pain mean and what it is. So that's good. I'm glad you brought that up.
If you were not here last month, I highly recommend the videos posted on our website. But it was the September webinar, and yeah, I saved all of that, and I have shared that one slide. I pulled it out and emailed it to a few people too, because it was very applicable for for the situation, shall we say. So, but yeah,
based on the book, The Myth of Normal. Very good book.
Okay, the next one is starting new, only one CSAT within 50 miles. I'm using remote counselor. He's starting with a CSAT. Should we be seeing the same person? The whole discovery happened with us using the same therapist, and her hearing us both separately and together caused the revelation after months. So we highly recommend that you have separate, because the work is very different. What Dr. Eddie was talking about is, guys need accountability. That it's a very and partners need support. So
you really, because the work is different. Also, the idea of working with both, and I've worked with both before. I've done it way earlier. The one rule is that there's no secrets. And when there's no secret, then that becomes a little difficult for sometimes people to be very vulnerable and honest. So therefore, it's not really the best approach. However, you keep saying CSAT. You don't have to have a CSAT. Okay, there are coaches who are certified in the treatment of sex and pornography addiction who can go across state lines. I'm sure Tammy has quite a few of them.
I honestly, I rarely recommend a coach, especially early in the process. And here's why. Especially not for the sex addict, because we really want it's a mental health issue. But yeah, for partners, somebody who understands betrayal trauma. Now, understand a coach can only help with here and forward. They
Right.
cannot look back at old stuff. So if you're
Right.
trying to do EMDR and some trauma work, a coach is out. So a coach has a place in this if you're very clear, and they're very clear. Some coaches are using well, I'm a licensed therapist, but I'm going to cross state lines, and so I'm going to call myself a coach, and that to me is not integrity. So we're really careful about how we do things. So but a betrayed partner person, if they understand trauma, if they understand addiction, there are some people that do a very good job that aren't specifically CSAT or CPTT, which is the training for betrayed partners. There are some that are APSATs trained that we do recommend, but with everything, there's a bunch of people that have letters behind their names that we won't recommend, so it really is finding the person that is qualified to help you in your situation. But I would really invite you to keep
I've
separate
come
therapists.
across a number of them. I
Mm-hmm.
know quite a
Mm-hmm.
few of coaches, female coaches who've been through this. They've had the training, they've done it, they've worked extensively with women who are dealing with this problem, and the feedback I've gotten has been excellent along the way. I think in this circumstance, probably the only option that's really available at this moment now, toward the end of this year, the Compass agreement both go in place, where there are 30 states that have come together to say, hey, guess what? We're going to allow licensed professional counselors to counsel across the state lines.
Hallelujah. That yes, there's
Right.
but here's been my workaround. I have some really good people in Canada, and they can cross state lines because they're not in. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
it is my one caveated workaround, with that, because I want you guys to have the good help, so but you need to share names of people who are actually, so separately email me some good coaches too, because
I will.
my experience
That's
has been
yeah.
they get into the you need to do this kind of stuff rather than
No, no, no,
no,
no, no.
I've seriously I've had some.
No,
So yeah,
no,
so I haven't found them. That's why I'm asking for input. Okay, next one. How do you not notice a woman that has inappropriate clothing on, like a top cut low showing cleavage or breasts, then express to your wife that you notice, when all that is said by her is she doesn't notice?
she didn't notice, I guess. That's what it is.
That
Well,
he's saying, I think it's he's saying, I noticed. He
right.
says to his wife, and she's like,
Saying
I
I
didn't
know.
notice.
And she said, I didn't notice. Right. So the question, how do you not notice? You don't. You have to notice. They're there. It's there. I see it. I have eyes. I can't, it's what I do after I see it. What is the problem we're talking about here? We're talking about lusting. Not noticing is lusting. I see it. I turn away from it. It doesn't impact me. We move on. I see it. That's a problem. Okay. That's a problem. If I see it and I don't take my eyes off it, or if I see it and I keep going back to it, that's a problem. But just to notice, I can't help but notice. I can't help but notice. And I don't
Okay.
have to sit there and tell her, my wife say, oh, did you see her? No, I don't have to say that. If she said to me, did you see her? Yeah, I saw her. Terry did that to me 2 weeks ago. A woman walked by and she's like, did you see that? I go, yeah, unfortunately, yes, I saw that. That's not very appropriate.
Well, and I want to talk about the inappropriate, because it feels like it's automatically judging somebody else for their, and you know, can people be dressed in ways that are probably not ideal, but this feels like I'm making it about the person. What they're doing is wrong, rather than I'm responsible for my eyes and my behavior. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Tammy, I think personally, I think there are some women who walk around I mean, they are practically
I hear you.
unstressed.
I know. I've been
Okay, and
in.
I'm sorry if that's judging. Yes, I'm judging. I don't want. I'm not the prude that you should have this buttoned up here and your skirt down to your ankles. That's not me at all. All right, but some of it is just way over the
I'm at the
level.
gym. I see it. I see it in the grocery stores. Yeah. I mean, I get it, but to me, it's like it. I doubt it that it's just the inappropriate, so to speak. I wonder if it's like, yeah, I noticed somebody for whatever reason, they may just be freaking gorgeous, so like rather than
What's
making it
wrong
a
with that?
judgment about somebody, what?
Right? What would be wrong if I saw a woman and said, "Wow, very attractive," and then I just turned and
Well, that's
moved
what I'm
on,
saying. Like
right?
like if we make it about what do I need to do to take care of me rather than, you know, putting it on someone else. That was, I guess, where I was
Well,
going.
okay, I understand what you're saying. What you're saying is, hey, if you have a problem controlling, dealing with her, that's your problem, not the fact that she's dressed that way. Fully agree.
Okay.
Fully agree with that. Okay, because again, what am I supposed to do? She's dressed that way. It's not a really good look as far or practically naked. I got to move away. I just turn away. And most of the time there's not a judgment. It's just, in fact, actually, what I do, especially if the younger women, I pray. I pray for them. I do. I seriously, what I do. Say, Lord, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know why she feels she needs to call that attention to herself, but I hope that you can just, well, anyway. But
Yes.
that,
No,
yeah,
I hear you, and honestly, I do similar too, because I don't. I think it's probably that was me because like I want to be judgmental about what is wrong with them, and I just go, you know what, like not my business. So okay. So, next question, Dr. Eddie. What about if he says he isn't attracted to you anymore? Then he can't manage the age difference that seems to have increased from my trauma responses. Hmm. That
this
he
is,
can't manage the age difference that seems to have increased from my trauma responses. Like, I'm not 100% sure if she's younger or older or what the situation is,
I
but,
don't, well, I'm just focused on the
or
idea
maybe it's a he and
saying,
he. I don't know.
I'm just
We
focused
don't
on
know.
the idea that he's saying he's not attracted
Yeah.
anymore. It's very shallow thinking. Um, because again, it's not the outward appearance, it's the depth of the person and their heart and their soul that we were supposed to be ultimately attracted to. Um, I don't know, and I have not heard a good answer to this. I know for men, if I was working with a man, because I've done this before, I've had this issue, um, talking to them about what's really important in a partner. What is it that you really need? And why is it that you're so caught up with, again, there's a lot of deep work that has to be done here with this individual to find out why you being so shallow. Why is it that you're just looking at the surface and you're not going deeper to see what's there? Um, so I wish I had an answer for you. I don't. I think for him, the one thing I'd be saying to him, if I need you to be, I really, instead of you running away from me or whatever it is, I really need you to be in therapy so you could be trying to figure out why you're so hung up on the way I look versus who I am as a person. That's where I'd probably go.
I think that's a great answer. So the next one is interesting. If the betrayed has stated she does not want to work on the coupleship, but acts as though she does, should the betrayer act that way as well or ask first?
All right. She's saying that she doesn't want to work on it, but she acts as though she does. And so now you're asking me, should you act that way as well? Why in the world would you go and act that way? If you really want the relationship to be a relationship, um, why would you play that game there? And again, I shouldn't even call it a game. It could be just the fact that she's just very confused at this moment. I would be interesting to know what you mean by she acts like she wants to be a couple. Does she do that in front of other people, or does she do that through her action with you? What if, because again, you're right, there's these mixed messages. And for me, I'm saying, okay, you know what? We need to get in front of a therapist together. We need to
Yeah,
get in front of a therapist together.
this does feel like a couple's therapy. And Dr. Rob talks all the time about ambivalent love. I love you, I hate you. I love you, I hate you. That's
Yeah.
understandable early in the process. If this is further down the road and you've been doing your recovery work, but I say all the time, the only thing I have control over is me. And I know for sure that I will make things worse if I don't take care of my recovery and take care of me. So, as the betrayer, you have the opportunity to do your recovery work so that you can show up and be a person that she may want to be involved with, maybe not.
And I'm staying consistent in the fact that if I want to be in that relationship, Kevin, that I am making that very clear, and I'm acting in what I
Mm-hmm.
say and the way I act. Therefore,
Mm-hmm.
she's not confused by the message you're delivering. You may
Right.
still be very confused by hers, but you are not at all confused. She's not confused by yours.
Next question. Can the addict interpret my therapy work? I assume this is the betrayed partner, as willingness to put this aside, as getting a ticket to repeating this behavior in the future, like he got a pass. It takes me for granted again.
You know what? This is one of the biggest fears that someone who's been betrayed has, that keeps them from at some point starting to reconcile. It's because if I do reconcile, that he now believes everything's good, we're fine, and we're going back to where we were. Okay. This is where the couple work is so important when you get to this stage, that we understand we're not going back to where we were. We're not doing that. We're going somewhere new, which means you need to see new behaviors on his part. And the fact is, like, for example, let's say some of the things that have been put in place, where if he's out and about, he's letting hey, I want to let you know I'm supposed to be at A, but I need to go over to B for a moment to make a stop. And he's not upset by it. He doesn't feel like he's being micromanaged. He knows that he just needs to do that. You're seeing behaviors like he's extremely attentive to you and maybe your kids. You're seeing changes in the fact that he has a stronger sense of engagement and commitment to the relationship, that he is still focused, even though you feel like I've healed very well, he's still very focused on making you feel safe. It is when you start to see those things, then you can feel more comfortable about the fact that, oh, you know what, he's not going to take me for granted. So if you're seeing those, then I'm saying, all right, let's start moving forward and doing the coupleship work. If, however, and again, I don't know where you guys are in the process based on it, but could he interpret the fact that you're doing the work and you're willing to try to put things aside and take that for? Yes, he could. He could do that. It happens. You have to judge it based on the actions you're seeing from him. Are they different and are they consistent?
Yeah. Recovery is a journey, and those of us that get it want to stay on that path. We don't want to backslide. So, um, okay, I want you to skip to the last one because
Okay.
I'm afraid we're going to run out of time. And this is important.
Oh my
So
gosh, you
today is
never.
our wedding. I
I
know.
got it.
So,
Sorry.
so today is our wedding anniversary. It's our first anniversary since being discovered. Our interactions this morning were difficult. Do you have recommendations?
Yes. You need to do what I assume. I don't know who this is from. If this is from the betrayer. Oh, from the betrayer. Right?
Yes.
Um, I would hope that you've done something for her. That you've gotten a card. You low key. You've done something. Even if she takes that card and rips it up in front of your face. If you got her flowers, even if you take those flowers, throws them in the garbage. That you've done something. to just acknowledge the day. And I think part of what you want to be doing with her is saying, like, for example, you said your interaction was difficult. Again, I would really love to know more about what difficult is, because if you're pushing back on her today, man, you're in a really bad place. Okay, a really bad place. This is one of these days that you just take a lot of humble pie and just, yep, I get it. You're right. I've taken this anniversary, I've ruined it. But I'm hoping that in the future, with the work I'm going to do, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth because I don't know any of this, but the ideal situation with the work I'm going to do, with my commitment to you, that we will have different, better anniversaries as we move forward, different anniversaries than we've ever had before. And I know right now they're just words, they don't mean anything, but I'm telling you, this is what my vision is for us. That
well, and you're saying, and I'm willing to take the action, and that is really the key, because words are just words, so they really needs the action.
You got to say a few words to give her
right. I know, but you got to put the action behind it. So okay, thanks for answering that one. Okay, so now we'll go back up. Now the next two are just comments, and I know we're going to run out of time. Using your past as part of your story can be a healing factor to you and someone who is struggling, taking the shame and turning it to something good. That's what 12-step is. That is what a group work is, it diffuses the shame, but it also is taking, like, that's my journey. So the next one is, there is a systematic problem with pornography in military. As retired military member, there are no programs that help with PTSD, depression, or anxiety that do not give you a bad mark on your career or label as a problem. That is, that has been my experience too. It is very difficult. We've had guys who have come to our residential program, that are military or police, and it is challenging. No, it's the compartmentalization is necessary in the military and serves you well there, and is horrible in your relationship. So the next one, I almost want to say, come back next week.
The next one I'm not going to be able to do. I can't.
Okay, Troy Love does an amazing job with attachments, so please join him next week.
And I'm right, bring it up there, but I'm willing to talk about it. I just can't get it done in 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yes. So I'm trying to decide
that one. Let's hold on to some of these versus rushing through them.
Okay.
Right? That okay?
All right. Yes.
We got
so the anniversary said not pushing back, trying to be present, and I have now acknowledged my wrongdoing. So good. So okay. Good. Okay. So we have 1 minute left. Do you want me to hold all of these?
Yeah, let's hold these, and next time maybe we'll do a Q&A. Everybody loves the
You
Q&A.
Say that.
So, what's that?
You say that, and then you always go, but I thought of something.
All right.
Oh, that's so funny.
I think too much, Tammy. What can I tell you?
No, I love your work. Seriously, so, but to the person, somebody said that they learn more about how to act out in groups,
Oh,
I guess if this one bothers me.
More
a trusted friend who helps women on their journey. This makes me think of one of those not good coaches told me, in a help group, guys can learn new ways to be deceptive, and sin is the word,
first and foremost, I know we shouldn't be talking about those topics in groups. Okay.
Yeah, the groups are not like, hey,
talking about how they get around their software.
No,
you got to get that. Got to be shut down.
Right. That is not my experience, and I've been around meetings for a long time. We don't sit there and ruminate on the acting out. We talk about how do we live today in a very different way. So that sounds like fear from that helpful friend, and that sounds like exactly why there's a lot of people who have been through this that I would never want to help. So anyway, okay. Happy birthday, Dr. Eddie. Enjoy your dinner.
Birthday,
I'm sure it'll be fun. So bye everyone.
Bye.